Hello everyone. In today's session, we will be discussing about the history of aviation industry. Please allow me to share the screen. Aviation industry is a very important stakeholder in the gamut of tourism and hospitality industry. It is extremely dynamic and involves a lot of rapidly fluctuating changes, which is definitely the reason why it is important for us to understand the historical developments in the making of the aviation industry. Often, this particular industry is subjected to turmoil, and this could be as a result of a myopic management focus on the market share, but more often due to the economic crisis beyond the control of the airline executives. The first decade of the 21st century was especially cruel to the industry as it endured two severe economic recessions. The so-called Great Recession beginning in 2008 being the most devastating since the Great Depression of the 1930s. As a direct result of falling demand, several airlines failed, including ATA, MaxJet, Aloha, and the Oasis. Others were forced to pair routes and frequencies with other airlines to reduce costs in restructuring what continues today. The term aviation was coined by a French pioneer, and this was Guillaume Joseph Gabriel Lalande in 1863. It originates from the Latin word avice, which literally means a bird. Avice means all the activities related to flying the aircraft. Aviation management as a concept involves managing the workflow of an airline, the day-to-day operations of the aircraft, and to say it also pertains to the entire aerospace industry by carrying out the day-to-day functions of the aircraft. Now let us focus on the background of aviation. This particular industry is a business sector that manufactures, maintains, and operates aircrafts and airports. When it comes to aviation, there is a broad range of responsibilities within. It comprises of activities at the airport as well as in the aircraft as well. So there is two dimensions to it. It involves ground duties that are required to perform before the flight takes off, and the activities during the flight, and the activities after it lands. So the original idea of kite flying from China was the first attempt of humankind to fly some man-made object high into the air. Chinese used to fly kites to send messages, lift humans, measure distances, and test winds during the 5th to 7th century AD. They also prepared hot air balloons to scare away enemies in the 3rd century BC. Later, during the period of Renaissance, Leonardo da Vinci studied the flying principles of birds and anticipated that the equal amount of resistance is offered by an object to the air, just as the resistant air offers to the object. During the 17th century, there was a discovery of various other related inventions such as copper spheres containing vacuum, which lifts an airship as they knew by then that the objects lighter than air can remain up in the air. During the 18th century, they conducted 5 flights using balloons successfully in France. In the year 1647, the Polish king Władysław IV invited the Italian inventor Tito Livio Burattini to his court in Warsaw and build a model aircraft with 4 fixed glider wings. The aircraft had successfully lifted a cat with minor injuries while landing. During the 19th and 20th centuries, experts around the world experimented continuously and came up with improved flying machines, or what we call as the present-day aircrafts, which were heavier than air and based on the principles of aerodynamics. The most notable names are Wright brothers, Orville and Wilbur Wright. According to Smithsonian Institution and Federation Aeronautics International, the Wright brothers made the first sustained, controlled, powered, and heavier than air flight at Daredevil Hills, North Carolina, on the December 17, 1903. Orville Wright took the first flight at 120 feet high for 12 seconds. The history of aviation industry in the United States began on this particular day. It was on this day that Orville Wright first flew the now famous Wright Flyer 1 in a controlled flight lasting 12 seconds. However, aviation did not immediately succeed. There were a lot of challenges. After these first flights at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, the Wright brothers faced a lot of turmoils in promoting their aircraft to a willing buyer. In fact, 5 years passed before they were able to convince the US government to test a much improved version. So this is the figure of the very first flight which Orville and Wilbur Wright tested. Although this definitely marked the beginning of the control-powered and sustained lighter-than-air human flight, the first scheduled commercial airline using heavier-than-air aircraft did not occur until 11 years later. And that was on January 1, 1914. Tony Janus piloted the Benoist 14 flying boat biplane across Tampa Bay in Florida on a historic 23-minute flight. This inaugural flight also carried the mayor of St. Petersburg, Florida, Mr. Abram C. Field, at a fare of $5 per passengers. This was the first time in the history that tickets were sold to the general public for a point-to-point scheduled air travel, known as the St. Petersburg-Tampa Airport Line. The airline offered service 6 days per week with 2 round-trip flights daily until ceasing the service on March 31, 1940, which was 5 weeks after the termination of a 3-month contract that had been signed with the St. Petersburg Board of Trade. This service greatly improved the travel between two cities, as travel by steamship took 2 hours, rail between 4 to 12 hours, and automobile around 20 hours. So the development of the aviation industry in India also has been extremely crucial in shaping one of the most fastest mode of transports in the country. It was a result of the World War I, where aviation became recognized as an industry. The US, of course, built about 17,000 aircrafts and trained about 10,000 pilots. After the war, surplus aircraft were converted to civil commercial use. We will continue with the discussion in detail about the development of aviation industry in India in the next discussion. Thank you.